Welcome, everyone, to the Modern Sacred Women's Work podcast. My name's Abby Payne, your co host, and we're excited to have conversations around what it means to be a modern woman, reconnecting with our sacred work as feminine beings, rebalancing the masculine feminine energies.
I love it. I'm Chelsea Henderson, your other co-host, and thank you so much for joining us for our messy, informal conversations where we just explore all that is so important to us and what we think is important for the world. Thank you and enjoy.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Modern Sacred podcast. Today, I get to nerd out about a system in your body that you don't know that you have, most likely. As a registered nurse and having worked with many nurses and doctors and surgeons and having met none of them who know about this system in your body is wild. And it's something I'm very passionate about. So today I'm excited to introduce you to a little bit more of your body that you didn't know existed, that controls everything from digestion to nerve impulses, muscle coordination and immunity, skin healing, wound healing, your eyes, your sight. Every cell in your body has a receptor for this system, and yet it is not taught. And this system has been around forever. In fact, every animal other than insects has this system in their body. And we've known about it since the 40s, the 50s. I'm not sure on the exact timeline, but we've known about it for a long time, and yet you've never heard of it. And this system is the endocannabinoid system. The endocannabinoid system, which you'll learn about in this episode as Chelsea and I talk about it, is a system in your body discovered by investigating and researching cannabis. Cannabis, the plant, has been used as a medicine since as far back as we have found it along the Silk Road. And in the United States, physicians carried it in their medicine bag and used it to treat many ailments. And of course, there are reasons that you don't know about this system, and many of them are political and rooted in racism and white supremacy and the patriarchy, which we're all about dismantling here. So, as part of dismantling the patriarchy in your own body, I'm going to teach you about your endocannabinoid system. I'm going to teach you about how it works and how you don't have to use cannabis in order to get the benefits from the system. So enjoy this interview style episode between me and Chelsea. And if you have any thoughts, feel free to put them wherever you're listening to this. Pop them in the comments or come on over to modernsacred.com and join our membership, and we can talk about it in person at the next Women's Circle. Okay, enjoy. Hi, welcome back, everybody, to another episode. We're so glad you're here. Chelsea and I are kicking ourselves a little bit for not recording the last 45 minutes or whatever of our talk, which we need to do because we just had such a great conversation.
That's the podcast, basically. It's just our
us
conversations.
Talking.
Is us talking.
So we wanted to hit record now.
Yeah.
And recap what we just talked about. So Chelsea and I got on to record the podcast and first just had a talk about really vulnerability and being seen. I feel like being seen online,
for better and worse,
receiving criticism, receiving critique, and like how the fear of that or even just the nervous system response to it can keep us small in a way or hidden, at least speaking personally, of how many times in my life I have not posted a video online or written a blog about something really vulnerable because I'm afraid of what people will say or think.
Absolutely.
And that has kept me from being who I really am and sharing my gifts and so
and also how like the internet and that level of larger connectivity has really exacerbated kind of our worst fears around that, right? If you went into a room of 20 classmates and shared a vulnerable story, that could get gnarly for sure. If there was a particularly mean spirited, or really, I think when we get to the root of it, a harmed person in the space who was volatile enough to say something mean, who was I mean, there's all the layers to it, right? But it was a lot different than if you put it out there.
Yeah.
It's different. It's like we talked about this. It's like being in a car. When I'm driving in a car and another car does something that I don't like, I feel offended by, or whatever stupid thing that I choose to view it that way. Um, it's easy for me to forget that that's a human. I talk about this a
Yeah.
lot. I'm just
It
like,
looks like a
hey, you
robot.
clunk of
I liked
metal,
when you said
like
that. You're
it
like,
looks
"Hey,
like a
fuck
robot.
you, robot."
Yes.
And
Fuck
you're
you,
like, "By the way,
robot.
that her name's Nancy and she's
Yeah.
78 years old and she has macular
And she has a
degeneration."
grandchild in the
Whatever,
car,
like,
right?
she's
Holy
doing her
shit.
best
Can I
or
tell
she's
you?
stressed. Like, we don't know.
You
Yeah,
don't know. And being behind a screen and a keyboard, I think it takes away the human. We are not the first people to talk about this, right? This is a
for
very,
sure.
very
Yeah.
well understood by many who I think are trying to bring humanity into a technological space. It's really hard. You talked about with Nurse Abby, trying to offer people screen reduction work via social media
Oh
because
my
you
God,
have to go
yes.
to where they are, right? But then also there's a little hypocrisy there. So it's that, like, if you were in a room with people, you could speak to that. That's why we like voice notes better than texts,
I
right?
know.
Because we could say, oh, by the way, I recognize there's a little hypocrisy in this. And also, to get to the ideal client, I have to go to where they are. If I want a junkie, I go
Yeah.
to the streets, or what. That's so generic and actually probably offensive, and I'm sorry I said that, but there's the like, you
But
go to
I
where
mean,
they
when it
are.
comes to social media addiction, because
Yeah.
just to share on that story, my Instagram handle was Screen Free Queen, and I was posting clips and videos and carousels about how to get off of Instagram on Instagram. Like, I'm using Instagram to talk about getting off of Instagram, and my name is Screen Free Queen, and I'm quite obviously on a screen making
Yeah,
these things, putting these things out, and the cognitive dissonance within my own self was so loud that I
absolutely.
was like, obviously people are going to point this out. They're going to
Yeah.
say, "You hypocrite. You are telling people to get off social media, but you're using social media to do it, and you're part of the problem." And people called me predatory,
Yeah. Oh
and
my God.
like, you open
Yeah.
yourself up to it, which is what we were kind of talking about. Of like, whenever you put yourself out there, whether it's on Instagram, Substack, a blog, an open mic night, like,
Yeah.
whenever you put yourself out there, you put yourself out there to receive criticism and critique. And
Yeah.
online, like you said, it's even worse because it's kind of anonymous and people can be mean
And it's addictive,
and
right? They're getting that
it's
rush of,
addictive.
ooh, I
Yeah.
stood up for myself. I stood up for
I
people.
have an
I get
opinion.
it. I get it. I mean,
Hmm.
I was reflecting on this to you just now, but like, I have found that over the course of my adult life, I have been at times extremely judgmental and aggressive. And I I don't feel aligned with that in my true nature. It feels like a learned
Yeah.
behavior and a defense against a world that can be pretty harsh and can also be perceived as pretty harsh. So potentially something in my line of life so far, this is obviously, more than just potential. It's definitely true. Things happened and I started to respond a certain way. So then I perceived a lot of things as negative, as threats, right? Like my husband, he
Hmm.
might even, this might be like he's a little on the spectrum, whatever it is. I think it's a blessing. That kind of stuff does not impact him. To me, it's like right
Exactly.
through the armor, pierced to the center, everything exposed. My pants have been pulled down. Everyone's laughing. It's hurtful.
Yeah.
And so my response, hypocritically, is to be as aggressive and mean as possible. Let me find your
Yeah.
bone and let me get something in there and twist. And it's satisfying.
Yeah.
It's addicting. And it
Yeah.
feels protective. And when we're doing it without having to look each other in the eye, I mean, forget about it. That's where my road
Yeah.
rage again, it was so easy for me. In my 20s, I thought I was such a badass bitch with my latte and my cigarette, and I was like, "Fuck you, and fuck you, and fuck you." And then one day I flipped off an old man and was like, "Oh my God." Like, I came eye to eye with him, and he was like 100 years old, which, first of all, he should not have been driving because he was really making some errors. But also, who the fuck am I? This man has been on the planet 4 times as long as I have, probably. That might be a little over the top, but maybe 3 times as long. Why
Yeah.
should I would never treat a person that way, and like, just to flip them off. Like, it felt the dissonance that, like you said, it's just like
Yeah.
crazy
Yeah.
how easy it is. And then you have to look it in the eye, and the humility and
Mhm.
the humbling was deep, and it started to
Mhm.
change my opinion. And now I have a little
Mm.
6-year-old who sits in the back, and, if I start talking shit, he's like, "Mom, you don't know what kind of day they're having.
Mom,
You don't know what I don't know." Like,
you don't know
and
what
I'm
kind of
like,
day they're having. What if
yeah,
that was your
exactly.
sister? You're like,
Exactly. Oh, wait, look, it is my
you're
sister.
like, dang, you're right.
No,
Well, and then
it
we talked about like
yeah,
the gut reaction for both of us is sometimes like, we don't want to do Instagram. We don't want to do social media.
right. Run
This is
away.
why we don't want to do
Yeah,
it. This is
yeah.
not the energy we want to be around. We don't want to wake up in the morning and read mean comments about
No,
work that is very deep and
we don't
close
wanna
to our
wake up in the
hearts.
morning and look at our phones at all, right? Like,
No. And if we do look on our phones to see someone saying something rude about something, a conversation that was very vulnerable
yeah.
and wonderful with a friend, it just makes you wanna, it makes me run away from that and be like, this is why I don't do social media. So then we talked about like, do we hire a 14-year-old to just like
Right.
post our clips for us? And we don't do that because maybe, there needs to be a little level of separation when it comes to that. But it was interesting how like the initial reaction for both of us is like, let's not do this.
Fuck that.
And that shit has kept me in many ways stuck and small. It
Yeah,
has kept me from putting my art out there, putting my creative
yeah.
process out there. I mean, I can't imagine being okay, you and I both watch Only Murders in the Building.
Mm.
The Meryl
I love
Streep
it so
character,
much. Please.
how much
She's a
rejection she
goddess.
went through as an actress.
Dude.
All those years of not getting the part, of interviewing and not getting the part. I cannot imagine, like, all the actors out there who go
No way.
and interview and pretend, play this role, and they cry, and they're trying to, like, and then they say, "Thank you, we've seen enough." And you're like, "Okay."
Yeah.
It's
Thanks.
vulnerable, and, like, how
I
many
just
you
showed you
just
my
have to not
soul.
quit,
I guess, but
and
that
it's
also was something we
yeah.
talked about, right? We talked about
Yeah,
where is the point where we're building capacity, right? Because I think
true.
there's also, we both identify as sensitive people and, hormonal people,
Mhm.
very, like, it's just that the ride for us is very kind of roller coaster. I feel like we have that in common,
Yeah,
and we're
true.
sensitive to it all, right? Like, we were talking about how in these moments of high stress, like, you've been in the process of moving, things can start to feel like threats that are just everyday interactions. Someone asking you for something, someone inviting you to something, your husband asking you what you want to have for dinner. Why is
And
that
I'm
the
like,
most triggering question? My husband asks me that almost every
"Go
night, and
ahead and
I'm
take
like,
my blood from me." Yeah,
Jesus
go ahead
Christ,
and just take the
100%.
life force
Just kill
right
me.
out of me with that
Just kill me.
question. I am depleted. I have been going all day, and now you're calling me saying, "What are your thoughts for dinner?" I'm like, "What about your and I was like, "I'm
Kill
not gonna eat
myself.
dinner.
Yeah, no,
I'm just not gonna eat dinner because I don't wanna think about what to have for dinner. I feel like
I'm
you're trying to kill me right
abstaining.
now."
I'm
It's like,
abstaining.
yeah, on another day
Yeah,
when I'm feeling refreshed and good, I would just go, "Ooh, good question. What should we have?"
yeah,
And it's just like
yeah.
where we're at when we receive things.
Well, and like, okay, there are moments like that where I'm like, I just have to be honest, that's really how I feel. And how can I not put that on others, right? Even in this space, like, how can we dissect this and not overindulge in the kind of like, oh, it's so hard, right? Like, everybody is experiencing some version of that. And I think that that's one of the things that I love that we talk about and kind of create curiosity around, maybe is a way to say it, of just like, how can we build capacity, right? Okay, we don't run away from Instagram, or we don't just tell our husbands to fuck off forever and
Mm-hmm.
never ask us a question again, because in reality they're doing something extremely normal, completely
Yeah.
reasonable, and probably on many levels kind, right? Like,
Yeah.
and we could just easily be like, I'm in no place to handle that, and I would love it if you figure something out. I have been with my husband for 17.5 years, and that's what I do now, but it took 16.5 years to get there, right? Like, it was not an easy process. I used to look at him as if he had just slapped my face when he would ask me questions
Oh
like
my
that, if
God.
I was in a elevated state or a heightened state or whatever. And it was like, and for him, you gotta, what he must think I'm a complete psychopath. Like, I'm asking you the
Totally.
most benign question in the world, and in reality, I'm making you an offering. But it's like, I just can't
Mm-hmm.
even with it. And so I think that's where I always want to not challenge myself, because I don't feel good with that word, but just expand myself a little bit to be like, okay, so
Mm,
what are all the factors going on here? Right. And like,
yeah.
it's okay to get your feelings hurt. It's okay for people not to agree with you. We're finding ourselves alive in this time where you can't help but be aware of the hypersensitivity and the massive divide between folks, where it's just like, if you think that, you're out of my life and I hate you. And it's like, gosh, that's so
Mm,
heavy. So then how can I practice not being that way? And also recognize that the world, that is not a good place to spend any time. The comment
yeah.
section on the internet, I think we've all agreed, those of us who are
Especially
trying
on
to
your
have a
own
civilized life,
video.
hell no, hell no. Even on other people's videos,
No.
I get triggered,
Yeah.
like, and triggered is so
Yeah.
obnoxious, but like, I find myself being like, I will hunt that person down. I will
Yeah.
kill their
Like,
children. It's
how
like, whoa,
rude.
whoa,
How could
whoa,
they
what?
say that?
And how am I at this level where I'm like at 1,000? I don't know this. So it's triggering in me the exact same thing that it has been triggered in them, right? And we're all doing the same thing, and we're just like shit slinging,
Yeah.
spitting in the wind,
Well,
and
and then we talked about like how Instagram, they say they know they peddle out controversial. If a clip is
they love it.
having a controversial opinion, they will push it to people who they know disagree
Yeah,
in order to incite rage in that person. And then quickly afterwards, the algorithm will feed them a cat video
right.
to then calm their rage
Good
because they're doing
boy.
this
Good,
thing with
good kitty.
psychology where they
Yeah.
trigger and soothe, trigger and soothe, trigger and soothe, so that you associate Instagram as the place that somehow makes you feel better because of the cat videos,
It's like
but
the frenemy.
really they're triggering you and
Yeah.
calming you to create
Yeah.
that association. So they're gonna peddle out controversial stuff. The more like outrageous people are, the more big your opinions are about something, the more views you're going to get because of the algorithm, which I don't like.
Mm-mm.
But yeah, it's kind of talked about like
It's
that's going to
addiction
be,
at its very
yeah,
worst. It
yeah,
well, not its very worst. That's absolutely not true. But
in
it's
its
addiction
basic
in a
form. It's in its,
such a basic form, and in
yeah,
a very insidious form. Because this is that the first one's free dealer on a massive scale, right? I mean, it's just it's insane. And we were talking about, you know, just the well, how this is a larger systemic institutional issue, right? Like, but at the core of it, there are a couple of humans there who are doing this on purpose, right? And so that I think the energy, it's like working in a place where the boss is really bad, right? That's the culture
hmm,
that's penetrating the whole
yes.
space. And the whole
Which is
space
where
happens to touch most of the world.
places like Substack, at least in our
Yeah.
experience, in my
Yeah.
experience, feel different because
Yeah.
there are people who are I think Substack, it feels like a place for highly sensitive people. It feels like a place
Yeah.
where people who
Artists,
are
right?
artists, poets, people who read long form content, people who want to read a blog about a trip to pick roses, like people who want to read that, they're a little more sensitive, they're artsy, and that comments, even if they don't agree, what I've seen is like, oh, have you, I don't agree, here's my opinion, and there's a
Absolutely.
conversation, and
Absolutely.
it just yeah, it's like a different culture over there, which
The
I hope
comments feel
stays.
totally different.
Yeah.
I hope so
Yeah.
too. I mean, you see a lot more people using it, and I think the format is a little different, right? I think that the way that they run the algorithm, I think the way that they have designed the actual just, the way that it flows is a little different. And I would be curious about the people at the helm. I don't know anything about the people who are running and own Substack. I know that it's not a Meta product, at least as of like when we looked that up and looked into that just a
Yeah,
few
it's
weeks
not.
ago. So,
I know
you
that they
know,
make their money not through advertising. They get paid when Substack writers get paid. So when someone pays to buy a subscription,
yeah,
because some writers put everything out for free on Substack, but some lock half their posts or all their posts for paid
right, for
subscribers only,
members. Yeah,
and
subscribers, right.
Substack takes a percentage, and that is how they get paid. So there is no
So
advertising,
a
there's
totally different
no
model.
market.
There's no incentive for them to pit people against each other, which I think that is the essence. And suddenly we're talking about social media a lot, but like that, I think it's interesting because we talked about coming into this space. Let's talk about the nervous system. And I think it's really
Mhm.
funny how we are talking about the nervous system. I mean, this is just like
So
the
true.
one big pulsing nervous system of our culture. And then our individual nervous systems, like, I don't have the nervous system that's going to do well, at least in the iteration of life that I have been gifted to be in conflict regularly, right? Like
Mm-mm.
I get to
Me
have that
neither.
choice, and I am one of the luckiest humans in the history of humans that I get to have that choice, especially as a woman, as all the things, right? That's amazing. And given that, I just don't, that's not, I get to choose not to, I'm going to choose not to because it does not
Yeah.
work for me. I don't thrive on it. I don't do well with it. It diminishes my capacity for everything. I think it probably does for everyone, but different people have different skin thickness. Mine is super
Yeah.
thin.
Mhm. Mine
And
is thin too. Yeah, mine
so
too.
for me, I wouldn't do that in my real life. So I'm not going to do it in a virtual life. And I
Yeah.
am lucky enough to maybe know the difference and be able to seek out the difference and have been able to cut the ties with that and just not have it. And
Mhm.
it's a different experience. And also, I mean, I think we've had this discussion with the AI. The AI, I'm like 80 years old. With the AI, with the holy fuck. Oh my God.
That was
But
good.
I
That
mean,
was great.
but listen, uh, but that it exists. It exists. It's happening. We could sit
It
here.
is
There was a
happening.
man in my hometown who would go out. He had been in the Vietnam, like a big against the Vietnam War, was a vet and had had a lot of trauma. And he would go sit on the corner of this very busy road multiple days a week to just with all of his signs about being anti-war and very much in that kind of lens of the
Mm.
Vietnam War still, but like in a modern day. And it was so sweet to see him. And I think that there were people that were affected, but it was such an interesting, like, what an interesting use of your time, and the impact. It's a small town. I mean, it's a smallish town, and it's the same intersection. like at a certain point, the internet has allowed us to do things that scale. Like AI is allowing us to do
Mhm.
things at scale.
True.
And
Yep.
also, that man on the street, he was spending his entire life doing that, and it was not changing anything. We were at war, we're
Yeah.
still at war. So,
Yeah.
like, if we care about something like that, then again, like I said this yesterday, what do we do about it? And I don't
Mhm.
necessarily know the right balance of abstaining, using consciously.
Same. Same. Because I actually recently, this last week, I deleted, not deactivated, deleted my Instagram and my Facebook personal
Hmm,
accounts. And I have
that's
been wanting to
interesting.
do that for a really long time. I've deactivated before and then just like reactivated later or maybe whatever, but
So you like
I just
ended
fully
you
delete
broke
it.
up.
Yeah. I mean, Facebook has pictures of me and my friends and my life back from like 2010. And so there's this like attachment to it as like this log of my life or like just my history, my things I've written, poems I've written are on there. It's like this. And I was like, oh, should I like go through and download or save all those? And I've done some of that, but it's like kind of an overwhelming task.
Yeah.
And I just finally was like, I don't want to be on here and I want
Yeah.
to delete this. I don't support Mark Zuckerberg. I don't support what it does to my life because I do end up
Yeah.
spending time on there.
Yeah.
But then when it comes to the modern sacred Instagram and what we're building, it feels a little bit different to me, but this changes every week how I feel about it
Yeah.
because it's like this
Whoa.
it's less of a my personal accounts felt like consumer accounts where
Mm.
I'm consuming this platform
Yeah.
versus our modern sacred account is like, here we exist. Because when you
Mhm.
have an online business,
Yeah.
how no one knows you exist. Your friends and family do, and the hope is, especially for us, is like friends listen to our podcast and they
They
send it to a
share.
friend, and then that friend sends it
Absolutely.
to a friend, and
Yeah.
like it grows by word
We
of mouth.
network.
And
Yeah.
also, it's nice to have a platform where you can post some clips and maybe someone will listen to the podcast and then they become
Yeah.
fans. And
It's
it's
really
what they
good
are
for that.
looking for. And
Yes,
it's what they
yes, yes.
need. And they're like, oh my
Yeah.
gosh, I'm just loving these conversations. And
Yeah.
I feel seen by these women. And
Mhm.
and I really enjoy this podcast. And I've found podcasts that way.
Me
So it's
too.
like,
Yeah.
that's that balance. And that's why we are called modern sacred is the
Right. Yeah.
modern with the sacred. It's like, okay,
Right.
are we on Instagram, but not reading the comment? Like, it's just something that we're always kind of trying to figure out how much of it is do we want to engage? How much do we want to live by our values in that? What do our values look like in that? And what
Yeah.
do we do when we get triggered by a comment about one of our clips? And moving through that as highly sensitive women, which is where I'm very glad that we have each other because
Me
doing it
too.
on my own
Yeah.
and living in that vacuum, having no one to
Yeah.
talk to about a mean comment and no one to talk me down off the
Well,
ledge
right?
of
Yeah.
like, it's
Yeah.
too much. Yeah.
Well, and it's funny because we've gotten one comment that's negative, and it's not even that negative. No one's calling us
It
names.
was
It's
really
really
just an
just
opinion.
saying, I disagree with this and I see it this way in a judgmental way, which, is totally fine. Like we feel that
Yeah.
way. We feel strongly about things all the time and
Mhm,
we don't
mhm.
not talk about it, right? So it's like I think, well, so we had initially we'd been kind of talking about this through the lens of the nervous system because both of us are
Mhm.
feeling
Yeah.
this
Let's
moment
touch on
of
that.
kind of just weathered nervous systems, taut nervous systems, depleted. I don't know the right word.
Yeah.
But I think you get the point. Like just you're going through this move phase. I don't even know what is
It's
happening
hot
with me.
where you
It's
are.
hot. I have a little kid home for summer break.
Yeah.
I am trying to do this business. I don't know, and I think also past traumas just weren't healed right? I think I think I'm really acknowledging that, but I don't know what that looks like. Like we're doing this work here on ourselves to just utilize, build, a toolkit and just
Mhm.
live this life a little more intentionally with a little less suffering. And I think I've designed all that. And then you said it really well of like when we live through things, especially at younger ages, our nervous systems start to contort to be like, okay, well, this is how we are
Yeah.
handling this now. And you did this kind of motion of like an inward kind of
Yeah.
protective. And I really felt that when you said that of like, oh, yeah, I think that is something real for all of us probably and
Yeah.
for myself in this specific way. And then you throw all of this, right? When you're building a business, you have to be responsible for everything. So we write all the content. We create all the back end systems. We do the fucking accounting, like we're doing all
Yeah.
of these things and we're networking. We're trying to grow this more grassroots. So then it's like, it's just constant communication, constant planning, constant updating. It's a lot coming at you. So then something like social media And,
Mhm. Yeah.
this space where it's like texting. It's why I hate texting. Emojis feel disingenuous, but I have to use them so people think that you can't read
And
sarcasm
yeah.
on texting,
Yeah.
which I speak sarcastically. It's just like my defense
Yeah.
mechanism or something. I don't know what it is. And you can't get the nuance of emotions that exists out there in the world. And so it all starts to feel like a bombardment. And so there's that again, it's like, okay, where are we building capacity and where do we need to care for ourselves better? But then what does that look like? If we need to go in and retrain the nervous system to be like, okay, we've built
Mhm.
the system that you can live in that supports you. Now we have to go back and heal and
Yeah.
retrain. And that I
Yes.
think is just kind of blossoming into view for me in the last couple of weeks of like, oh, there's a whole other level of work. Like,
Oh my
let's
god,
go in and
another
deal with that.
level?
Oh my god, this
The
onion
levels
never ends. The peels just keep on
we
coming, right? Whew.
that's like the life journey is wild with the onion. Yeah, the nervous system, I don't know about you and all our listeners, but I feel like I hear about the nervous system everywhere now.
Yeah, me
Nervous
too.
system regulation, which maybe it's just my little corner of existence where everybody's talking about it, but I feel like everything from like electrolyte drinks are talking
Yeah,
about nervous system regulation, and which is great that people are talking about it more, but what does it really mean? What is the nervous system? Like what is trauma? And like when I was talking about how we form around these experiences, the image that came to me was like a root system where like I don't know what, though, a wiffle ball, a pickleball where it has like the holes in it or whatever.
mm,
If you put that in like a pot and plant a pot, like the roots will grow around it and in it. They'll find ways to like move in and through that ball
whoa, great
in
imagery.
order to like survive and get the
Yes,
nutrients that they need. They work around it and like we are the same way. We are completely whole, healed bodies of light that are planted in this world with all of these things that we need to move around and form around. Like as babies, we're planted into this world where parents have conflict because their parents had conflict, because their parents had conflict, or because their great grandpa died in World War II or World War I, and that changed the course of their family and their economic status. There's so many little rocks and balls and pits to like figure out that we end up developing basically coping mechanisms to survive and to protect this like beautiful ball of light. I feel like as we that's the onion. That's the formation of the ego
yeah,
is we've come into the world egoless, pure beingness, pure light source energy. And in order to survive, we develop the ego. And then the
yeah,
second half of life is about peeling back those layers to get back to our essence
yeah.
and our source of light. And it's all part of it. Like
Mm,
you have to form the ego to survive. I mean,
yes, it's an incredible tool.
we're completely dependent. We come into the world, we can't feed ourselves, we can't wipe ourselves, we can't do anything for many years of our lives, and so then we, like, have to learn how to survive, like, okay, you know, when mom and dad blah, 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 then, like, it gets scary, they start yelling,
Right.
or when dad comes home in this mood, when he's been drinking or whatever, then it's best for me to go into the basement and play by myself, and we start to
Yeah,
learn these things even without knowing we're learning them. Our nervous system just forms around these balls, and
yeah,
then we grow up and we create, hopefully, stable lives for ourselves where we can finally go, okay, now let's take a look at this root system.
right,
Like, what do I want to
right.
keep and
Yes.
what's not serving me? And I've got a big tangled up ball over here that's like
Yeah.
just all fucked up and half rotting and
Crunchy.
like pulling life force energy out of the plant, out of me. It's time to like cut
Yes.
that off. And that's like very illustrative way that maybe the nervous system works. Like we could
I
get
love
more
it.
into detail, but that's like a good starting point, maybe.
Well, I like that just the consideration. of the process, right? Something to think about, and it does illustrate for me pretty well. Like, oh yeah, it kind of just grows into place reactively, responsively, maybe even,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
think that that is, and so many factors play up, right? Like we were talking about hormones and like how
Oh God,
you
yes.
can be in a space, like hormones are chemicals that flood our bodies at different times for different reasons in different ways. And help us to respond to all the things in life that we need to respond to. They can help us react when we need to. They can help us, love when we need to, calm down when we need to, defend when we need to, all of those things. And then sometimes they are triggered for different reasons in conjunction with something that's happening that is not necessarily would not demand that response.
Mhm.
And yet our connection, we we attach those. And so then if you were a teenager and you were highly hormonal in a moment when something
Mhm.
happened that at other times your life wouldn't be that big of a deal, but in that moment you just were flooded and that was your response, that kind of gets ingrained into that root system, right? That becomes
Yeah.
then a response that your body becomes, those neural pathways get set of like, okay, when this happens, I respond this way. And so
Yeah,
like
it's a
I
pattern.
have this wonderful therapist and she and I've been working a lot on, rerouting or repaving some neural pathways. And she's so sweet and she talks about how when she experiences something that triggers an old response that she's trying to redirect, she will, use her tools to redirect it, take a deep breath,
Mm.
go outside, have a glass of water, whatever, hold her own hands. Like there's all the things, right? Even just contact, hugging someone, petting your pets. My God, pets are amazing for that. And then she talks about how she'll very intentionally like, congratulate herself or the way you would with a child, like, "Great
Mm.
job, sweetie," like, "Wow," and even, like, use
That's
her
so
own name, like,
beautiful.
I would be like, "Chelsea, wow, good job, like, you did such a great job creating that new pathway," because then you're
Yeah.
reinforcing the new pathway, and
Yeah, with
that's what we
praise.
respond to, and I just thought that was the cutest thing, like, "Oh,
That is so
it's so cute."
beautiful.
I know, it's
God.
beautiful,
And
and
that's
it's
like that inner
effective.
child work. It's that inner child work, which is, I mean, children, our inner child, that's like that, it's those neural grooves. Really. I mean,
Yes.
if we're trying to if we strip away the woo part of it, which I love the woo side of it, but
Yes.
I feel like, yeah, that inner child healing is like those very early neural grooves, like you were saying, where it's like, oh, when this happens, I react this way to protect
Yeah.
myself.
Yeah.
And how we rewire that is like kindness and compassion. I do the same thing with myself. Like if I'm driving up a very steep road, like I hate driving, I'm very afraid of driving, and I'm like tense shoulders, tense, 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 I'll be like, "Oh my God, Abby, I know it's so scary. Like you're doing such a good job. Like just take some deep breaths. You've got this. I've got a semi on both sides. It's 80 miles an
God.
hour. Like you can do
In
this.
your
You're
little
doing so
Prius?
good. You're doing so good." And then I'll pass the semis and pull over and be like, "Okay, good, good, good. Take a deep breath. You did
Absolutely.
it. You did it. That was so scary,
Absolutely.
but you did it. And I'm so proud of you." And I'm literally saying this to myself in the car. And I'm like,
Absolutely.
I have to. I have to
100%.
feel
I
like
do
someone
too.
is here with me in this
Yeah.
experience. I have to feel like someone is holding my hand in order for me to do this. And like, I am holding my own hand because there's no one else in the car. But like learning how to do that for myself took time, and I didn't know you could do that.
I didn't know either, and I think it is actually something I wish it was something we were teaching to each other when we were younger. I think it's something we should all just expect as a part of development and anticipate and share, because I think we are massively codependent in societally and culturally. Somehow we've really gotten to this place of being there's such a codependence, such a people pleasing element. And then at the same
Mhm.
time, we can be so cruel to each other. It's really interesting. But there's something really beautiful about recognizing that we are our own kind of best source of comfort and best source of stabilization, right? I mean, we had this
Mhm.
conversation in one of our meetings yesterday not recording, but in a meeting planning a retreat, and we were talking about that, you know, the pouring from a full cup, right? I've always heard it as pouring from a full vessel, or likewise trying, hopefully not pouring from an empty vessel. And I think, that is where that really starts. If I can self
Yeah.
soothe, then I don't need to go find my husband and get him to soothe me, right? Like sometimes there are ways we can just soothe each other by humans regulate, right? I've learned this with being a mother. Like children learn to regulate their own bodies, like physically, by just being in the presence of their parents. The more regulated the parents, the more regulated the child, right? It's like this beautiful
Yeah.
science that we're learning and understanding. And so, it's fine for me to go be in the same room as my husband, get a hug, that kind of thing. But if I were going to him and saying, I need regulation, right? Essentially, like,
Yeah.
and I feel like that's what I feel like I picked up growing up that I was trained to do was like, I am sad, make me feel better, right? Instead of being like, okay,
Mhm.
how can I feel less sad? How can I be okay with sadness and then let it pass and not hold on to it as a story? How can I recognize it's a chemical, it's a response, it's a learned behavior, all the things, and then just be okay with
Yeah.
it and let it go, re regulate in my
Mhm.
body, then go hug my husband, right? So that I'm not
Mhm.
asking him to give me some of him to get better. And then when other people around me have needs, they're not asking me to give me to them to
Yeah.
make them feel better, right? It's this shift in that. And I think, for me, that's been a radical lesson over the last several decades of adulthood of like just slowly learning the power there and that really should be more the expectation. So how can we give that to ourselves and each other to then be able to
Hmm.
support each other from a place of an overflowing cup or an overflowing vessel? That
Mm.
just it's just natural.
Oh, so it makes me wanna I know we talked about it's Lauren who is a, Montessori teacher, right?
So Lauren has a background in early childhood education, and then
Yeah.
she's worked in those environments and run her own little home Waldorf Montessori style school. Yes.
Yeah, just to
Yeah.
talk to someone even more about childhood development,
We've
and
got to have her on. I've already asked her to come on. I think it would be
I would
beautiful. Her
just like I'm
her
just remembering
perspective is
that this
beautiful.
moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like you were saying, it's like when we're children, that's when we with our regulated, grounded caregivers, ideally. I mean, we're all human, but like regulated, grounded caregivers are teaching the children how to regulate themselves through like that shared nervous system.
Yes.
And then, like, it's even been interesting within my marriage or my friendships, particularly my marriage, where I used to think with that codependent lens of like, okay, my partner, my husband is feeling bad. He's feeling sad. He's feeling anxious. I need to make that better. So
I
I
used to
need
be
to
the
do
same.
something to fix him, to help him, to
Absolutely.
heal him. Versus now I've been trying both with myself and with him to ask, like, what do you need? Maybe you could go, do you want to go for a run tomorrow? Like, what's your, do you need a cup of tea to try and be like, okay, what is it that you need for you? And it might mean not being around me. It might mean maybe you need to go on a hike. Maybe you should go on a bike ride. Like, what makes you feel joy? What makes you feel good? How can I encourage you to do those things, or what can I take off your plate for you to be able to go and do that today?
Right.
Encouraging him to regulate himself and even giving ideas of like what that might look like, which I'm not perfect at it. But that's such a different lens than like, what can I do to make you feel better?
Yeah. And that this is my responsibility. Let me own this for you
Mm,
in some way. If you're feeling bad, I should feel bad, right? that's
yeah.
it's
That's a
it's
whole other thing
quicksand.
too, is like you are allowed to feel sad, frustrated, upset, and I can not feel those. Like I don't
Absolutely.
have to take on those emotions just because you have them. And that's really hard for me to keep
Yeah.
myself. That's very hard for me. Something I'm very much learning.
Yeah.
With some and
Totally.
when my person or whoever I'm around is feeling anxious, I feel anxious. And
Totally.
it's taken me a
Yes.
long time to realize that my anxiety might not be my anxiety,
Oh
because
my gosh,
sometimes,
yes.
like, if
Yeah.
you were to If I were to go to a park and get a coffee and walk around, I'm suddenly not anxious. But if I come back into my home where my partner is feeling anxious, now I'm anxious again. I'm like, "Oh, I
Yeah.
don't think this is my anxiety. I think this
No,
is your anxiety and I am taking it on." How do I not do that?
absolutely. And
That's
then
something
there's that
I'm learning. Yeah.
dissection of like, what is mine? Right. I ask myself that sometimes even out loud now after coming home from being like yesterday, I spent hours outside at a nature preserve and was just quiet next to a lake with my son. It was simple. It was, I mean, no phone, no nothing. Like, literally at one moment, we were standing with the branches of the trees on us, so we were just in them, like, swaying, like, having a real nature experience in that quiet kind of nervous
Yeah.
system regulating way, and then we picked up my husband and we went to Costco, and it was
Oh my god, the
completely different,
worst.
and I was like,
Oh,
"Whoa," and so, like, I was in this quiet place, and so I was able to just kind of stay in that quiet place, not be reactive. I incidentally then had a couple of really cute interactions with, like, the women who worked there, right? And so I was more receptive. But then we got in the car, we drove home, and I was like, "We're gonna take the long way home and not go on the highway because it's five
beautiful.
o'clock traffic." So we're driving an extra 12 minutes so that we can stay on small roads and just wind our way home. It was actually really fun. We saw parts of our city that we didn't even know existed. My husband was like a little sightseer.
Awesome.
"What? Did you know that was there?" I was like, "I had no idea. I don't even know where we are right now." We are fully relying on Google Maps to get us home. We are completely flying blind. And then I got home and was literally like, "Okay, I have a lot of different feelings going on in my body. What of this is mine?" And it's a really
Mhm.
interesting question to ask and start to probe into because you just don't know what
Yeah.
you're picking up, right? I mean, there's just all
Yeah.
sorts of different things, and we're all in this space together, and there's just so much going on. And I mean, I talk about this in my sustainability work. I always like to think about the line uh, of human interaction that comes even into our things. So if you're in a Costco where there are
Mm.
hundreds of thousands of items, all of those items from the packaging to the product have been touched by hundreds, if not thousands of hands along the way to get them there. So the energy in that space is intense. There's the people who
Wow.
work
It
there.
is
There's the people who
wow.
shop there. There's the people who built the space. There's the people who live near the space. There's the people who touched every item in the space. It's just wild when you start to think about it, and
Wow.
that's just a little. I mean, God, we'll go back to the internet. The internet is that on
Wow.
steroids. It's like
My god,
so
Chelsea, yes.
well, and I think it's an exercise of scale. Like for me, it's helpful for me to zoom out sometimes and be like, "Whoa, okay."
Mhm.
Like I know that
Yeah.
that pasta is from Italy. So that came from
And I'm in
another continent.
Colorado,
And
so
I'm in Colorado, so, like and, like, these noodles are from a somewhere in Asia, right? Like, somewhere in
wow.
Southeast China, and, like, that's a really far distance to come here, and all of the right? The people who package it, the people who ship it, it's wild, and you start to follow these energy trails, and then you realize oh, yeah. We're just bombarded in a way we've never been before. And whether you believe in energy in the woo woo sense, and maybe we need to stop saying that and just acknowledge that, like, people who are engaging with us in this space probably are okay with a little bit of woo. And
Yeah.
that's
Woo
just
has
part of what
science
we're
we just
talking
haven't
about.
discovered yet.
But woo,
Yeah.
and I think there's even just germs. We learned about this during COVID. Those of us who weren't, out there already paying attention, which you're a nurse and I am married to someone in the
Mhm.
healthcare field, so we were. But many people, I think, didn't think
Yeah.
about it that way. The trace of things. You touch
Yeah.
something and the stuff on your fingers is on
Mm.
there for hours,
Until
sometimes
you wash
longer.
them. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, so
Yeah.
there's trace in all of this. And I think we're just living in a time where trace has exponentially expanded energetically,
Wow.
physically. So there's this bombardment. And I would say, okay, we identify as highly sensitive people. I feel like majority of folks are pretty
Mhm.
sensitive, and we've just learned ways to cope and block
Yeah.
and strategically kind of keep things at bay. So
Yeah.
that's affecting all of
Well, it
us.
makes me think about when I've gone to certain rock and crystal shops. a lot of them will cleanse the stone of energy before they give it to you. Like, you pick
Right.
it out and you take it to the counter, you're like, "I'd like to purchase this amethyst rock," and they're like, "Okay," and they put it in the little bag and they hang it so that they're not touching it, and they cleanse it with either sound or
Mhm.
smoke or
Mhm.
something before to because how many people have picked up that stone?
Yeah.
Either at the shop, looking at
Mhm.
it, putting it back down, looking at it, picking it back down, the person who pulled it from the earth, the journey it took on the truck to get there, like you're saying, all the hands and energies. And these rocks and crystals, some of them absorb energy and some of them emit energy. So the ones that absorb energy have picked all that up. And I always
Yeah.
kind of love that they like clean it
Mhm.
for you before they give it to you. And like that is just so wild, like, to be in Costco because sometimes even if it is not a busy day, it just feels so energetically intense.
Yeah.
It
It is.
feels like I am in, like, a Middle Eastern market, like, I've
Yeah.
been to some in Morocco where, it
Much
is,
less
like,
pretty,
hundreds and
but
hundreds of people.
yeah.
Yeah, right? Way less pretty at Costco, but bumping into each other and the smells and the people and the energies and the stories, but, like, in
Yeah.
that scenario, you can see everybody.
Yeah.
But in a Costco scenario, it's in these invisible forces. Dude, my
Absolutely.
mind
Well,
is blown on that.
arguably
That's wild.
I love you. Good, I'm glad. I love thinking about that shit. That will keep me occupied. That's me like a cat with a little toy to bat. Like, I'm engaged, and I love thinking about that, and I think, there's the Moroccan market speaks to kind of where we came from as beings, because,
Mhm.
yes, it's busy, it's hustling, it's bustling. Probably you would go home from there and need to take a breath, right? And, like, have a little
Yeah,
quiet moment for your nervous system to re-regulate. But
yeah,
it's still smaller scale, because those things came from farms within a couple of miles. They came from people who live
yeah,
within a couple of miles. It's still different. Like, I think we're playing with things in a modern landscape that we just don't
man.
understand, and we just have never thought about it. And we're not, I mean, this is industrialization, right? And listen, we live into our 80s and 90s these days, no problem. I mean, we don't die of dysentery. We don't Our kids have vaccines and they don't get polio. Like, I'm so grateful for so much of
Mm,
it. I'm not shitting on it, but it is also, I think there's many components to it that we just have not yet really considered and looked at how they're affecting us. And so many of us are, we came into this conversation before we started recording by talking about how both of us feel like our nervous systems are just strung pretty tight right now. And there's
definitely.
reason, and then there's things we don't understand that are affecting that. And I think that that's just becoming more of a common condition, because there's so much of that happening all around, just constantly.
Well, it
Yeah,
makes me think about the germs that you were talking about. Viruses, germs, even like the smallpox blankets, with like Native Americans, and that there are these living creatures on physical things that can make us sick. That was a very wild, out there notion
totally,
for like,
totally. Yes.
what would you mean there's these teeny
No,
tiny
people were
animals
not buying it.
that like
They thought it was
jump from
hokum.
a blanket into me and that's what makes me sick? Like,
Yeah.
no, it's a demon. Like,
Yeah.
but that this is like
It's a
I
demon.
think that they're like, "Yeah, that's called a demon." And you're
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
no, that's called a virus." We know that now, but I think that we're on this part of our consciousness evolution where maybe we're starting to realize that there's energetic disease that
I
jumps
I think
from
so.
person to
Why
person, and this
not?
is ancient knowledge, I'm sure, with,
Yeah.
like, ancient healing practices of, like, Reiki and energy healing and chakras, like, this has been known,
Absolutely,
but in
yes.
terms of, like, the modern awareness of, like, how energy can make you sick or well, and I would really love to learn more about Reiki because I've
Yeah, me
known many
too.
people who
Yeah.
they talk about, like, Reiki level 1, because you can take certifications. Reiki level 1 is just how to protect your own energy. It's not about how to be a Reiki practitioner, it's not about how to help other people with their energy or cleanse energy, it's like how to keep a force field around your own energetic body
Yeah.
and how to keep it within your own kind of control and how to cleanse your energy. I need that. I
I
really
do
need that. I
too.
would love to do
I
that
do
or to have
too.
anybody if there's anybody listening who is a Reiki master or practitioner who would wanna come on and talk about Reiki and energy healing and energy regulation, I would love to learn more about
I
that.
would
I feel
too.
like I really need to know how to do
I
that for
know. I
myself.
would too. I would too.
Yeah.
I mean, I have had my little one of my several little worry stones, and I try not to call it a worry stone, but I have had that during this conversation. I hold it a lot, and not because I think I'm not charging my crystals in the moon. There's no crystals in my vagina. Like, I'm not that person. And I love that person, by the way. I love
Yeah.
that woman lives in LA and has a big sun hat and like is so cool. And I think she's
Yes.
amazing in my mind. I don't, but, um, or fuck, I'm in Colorado. There are plenty of them around here too. And they're also super badass women. It's not who I am. I have
Yeah.
there's a pragmatic kind of like realistic voice in my head. That realistic is not a fair word, but like that is, raised by a atheist science driven father who was pretty intense and pretty judgmental. And so that voice always wants to come in, and I love that science is coming in now and saying
Yeah.
vibration is everything, right? Vibration,
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
stone has been on this earth for longer than human beings, like
Yeah.
most likely. So that time on this planet soaking up everything. It's got a vibration. It's alive. It's just
Yeah.
alive at a different level. So I
Yeah.
love
Yeah.
that there are these areas that we're beginning to explore that allow us to tap into some of this stuff, right? Have this stone,
Too.
put some of that into the stone, let it process it out, let the vibration of the stone, that lower, quieter, stiller vibration come into me. You know, I think that's a
Mhm.
fascinating frontier. And I think your point about introducing the concept of viruses to the general public, it was a slow burn, right? I mean, people were,
And people were put in insane asylums for
yeah,
trying to move that idea forward because people thought
totally.
you have schizophrenia if you think
Absolutely.
that these
Yeah.
little bugs jump from person to person, and
Yeah.
that's what you yeah, and, like, people were imprisoned for their whole lives for believing that and trying to move that idea forward. And the same
Yeah.
with energy, I think that we're in that time where it's like, yeah, this is real, guys. This is very real.
And it affects us in some way, right? I mean, that's just, yeah. So I think the
Yeah.
nervous system conversation is one that I think we'll just keep having because it is so,
Yes.
and I think the endocannabinoid system, we just talked about that, and that was fascinating to me. And I think, we can, I feel like it's so hard to traverse anything in any of these areas that we like to explore without hitting a
Mhm.
freaking buzzword, right? And so it's like, how can we put that aside?
Yeah.
If this is not to, for anything else other than our curiosity and our exploration and our quality of life, but like, how can we kind of get into
Yeah.
what that all means and how we can play in that space,
Yeah.
right? I loved it. Ever since we had the
Yeah.
endocannabinoid conversation, hemp seeds are up in my food, girl. You know it. I am
Yeah,
like,
right?
the
Yes.
more omegas, the better. Let me feed that system. And so,
Oh, and it just makes so much
yeah,
sense. For anyone who listen back on that episode because it really changed my life and the way I look at my
it was
nervous
amazing.
system.
It
If
was
I'm
amazing.
like nervous system depletion, I'm like, yeah, I've used up all my endocannabinoids because it's been a
Yeah.
stressful day and
Yeah.
I need to bring it down a
That our
notch. And like
bodies
that's science and
naturally make, by the way. Did not know that. How, I
THC.
mean,
Yeah.
whoa, we're
Oh, and I
making it.
forgot. Okay. Don't let me nerd out on this because I know we're wrapping up, but I forgot to mention last week that the equivalent for THC that we make is called anandamide. And
There's another mouthful. Anandamide?
anandamide, it comes from the Sanskrit word for bliss. So it is like the bliss chemical. And that
I
is
see it.
floating down the lazy river in Golden, Colorado with like a beer, maybe not a beer, maybe a seltzer, and the sun's on your face, and you just feel kind of like you took a hit of a joint. Because you did.
Because you did.
Yeah.
I love that you said it because that was right coming out of my mouth. But also, even if you didn't, the beauty of that system that you taught us is that we're making our own.
Yeah.
Right? And that's amazing. And if we care for
Exactly.
our systems really well, if we care for these body machines really well, body beings, these things that we get to live in really well, then we are producing that for ourselves.
And we get to
So
ride
cool.
some high. Yeah, it's beautiful. Well, let's have another conversation on the nervous system and let me nerd out on it for a little while because
Let's
I
do it.
taught nervous system regulation in my digital detox course, and I got real deep into like, what are these fight, flight, freeze phases, and how do we know what phase we're in? And how can we build awareness around that? And what are techniques to bring us out of hyporegulation or out of hypoarousal or hyperarousal? And that was so helpful for me. That was really, really transformational in my personal healing journey, was just like, oh, I can actually tell where I'm at. And I know how to bring myself back down into like more of an even keel. And sometimes that's easy, and sometimes it takes weeks. Sometimes it's like, oh, I need to really scale back my commitments. I need to say no to this volunteer opportunity I took on. I need to, sometimes it's like a deep breath, and sometimes it's reorganizing your life, and it takes like 2 months to get there. Like it's,
Wow.
it's just,
Yes.
it's interesting. Sometimes it's not just the deep breath that fixes it. Sometimes it's like your whole life is hyper arousal. You're like, oh,
Okay,
I
I want to get
like
into
this.
that. I want to get into
Yeah,
that.
so
I
we'll get
think
into
in
that too.
the non-prescriptive way that we're trying to
Yeah.
go for here, I'd like for you to maybe be a little prescriptive with me because I want to get in there and hear about that. I feel like I know so much, and yet
Yeah.
there's still more. There's still more I could be practicing.
Yeah.
It's a lifelong practice, but
I mean,
I'm
there's
not
so
exactly
much.
where
I
I want to
mean,
be with it right
it's
now.
all about equipping. Like when it comes to the
Yeah.
prescriptive, which anyone who might be listening, like what that means for Chelsea and I is balancing, here's information, here's
That worked for
knowledge,
us,
here's
that worked for others we
skills,
know. Yeah.
here's science, here's thoughts, and take it and do with it what you will. So we try not to be like to should on people. You should
Or on
eat
each
hemp
other.
seeds.
Yeah.
You should not, blah, 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 or on each other or even on ourselves. But more, here's the information so you can make an informed decision on
I love
how
it.
your body works and how your
Yeah.
life flows best
Yeah.
for you. So can give some
Absolutely.
information on all that.
Nice. Well said. Well, thank you. Thank you for talking. I do feel more calm.
I do too. I needed this. I
Me
just love it.
too.
I love you.
I
I love
love
our
it. I
conversations. They're
love you
so
too.
healing for me. Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So much love. Good
All right.
vibrations, right? Has a whole other
Yeah,
meaning when
that's
you
right.
think about it that way. Hit those
That's
good
right.
high vibrations that make your body function perfectly and your emotions hum along. Oh, all right,
That's
darling.
right.
Until next
Okay.
time.
All right. Goodbye,
Bye.
everyone.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Modern Sacred Women's Work podcast. We're so glad you came.
If you'd like to learn more about Modern Sacred, our offerings, book clubs, and women's events, you can go to modernsacred.com or follow us on Substack.
We were so happy you were here with us.
I hope you have a great rest of your day. Thanks for listening.